making the grading system more of like a level up bar that you would see in games. The point of this is to make it so that students are more motivated to reaching that next letter grade, such as, going from a D to a C. And with that, you can use, like extra credit that students normally wouldn't do, but now they see that they're, a couple points away from getting the next letter grade, so they'll be more motivated to do that. And so yeah, here's just really quick example. It could be done something like this, or something where it has to go all the way, or whatever. Setup is very basic. You'll need a website where the students would be allowed to see their grades, because there's no point in changing the grading system if the students can't see their grades at all times. And in addition to that, because it is a different system and grades are important to people, you would also have to give the students access to the rules at all times, so that if they have questions, or if they come to the professor and say, hey, I didn't understand this, the professor can just say, well, you did have the rules. Alerts, those will be done in the form of like emails, and they're meant for students who do not check their grades as often as some others. So the alert would be, say you have a student who forgot to hand in an assignment, or they did hand in the assignment but the professor didn't get it. That alert would then send them an email, and then they can clarify it or figure it out. Alright, for each grade letter there will be a certain set of criteria that the student will have to meet in order to get that grade letter, and I will have an example at the end of this presentation for you to see what I mean by that. But like an example would be if a professor wants the students to more focus on getting all of the assignments completed or whatever, you would make it so that in order to get an A, the student has to hand in all of the assignments. Extra credit, like I mentioned earlier, this kind of goes on to the fact that now the student can see what that extra credit does, especially if they're right on the border of going to the next level. This extra credit wouldn't be something that's, like go home and print off an article. It would be something that is just like the assignments that we have now. Like you would have to type up an entirely different memo or a new set of instructions, basically the same set of criteria. And that way, the students would be getting more experience than they normally would, because, let's face it, none of us wants to have to write another complete instructional speech without, knowing what it will actually impact us on. Alerts, I kind of highlighted this earlier. Again, just to make sure that students who don't actively check their grades are still getting the benefits from this design. It could be anything positive or negative, such as if they get to the next level, they get an email that says, congratulations, you made it to level 2, or a C, or whatever. Or if they did fail to hand in an assignment, which in this case, because of the criteria, that could mean the difference between certain letter grades. Another thing that I should point out is all of this is extremely customizable, and I believe it was Preston's presentation, he mentioned how it could be used in multiple classrooms. This is the same scenario. The criteria can be adjusted so that the professor can have more of a classical course where you have, solely based on points of tests, or you could have it focused, so like I said earlier, where a professor wants to make sure that all of the students hand in their assignments so that they get experience with letters, with memos, with email formats, or whatever, and they're not entirely focused on like the content, or both. Alright. Here's the example that I had brought up, and you can see how there's different criteria for each letter grade. Like an A, you would have to turn in all of your homework assignments, get a certain amount of points, and in addition to that, receive an A on the final or the final project. And as you go down, you can see that the criteria that need to be met are reduced every single increment, and again, all of this is completely up to the choice of the professor. Are there any questions?